The breaking point. The Galactic Assembly Hall existed in a place between dimensions, a marvel of engineering that allowed representatives from thousands of worlds to gather without the constraints of physical distance. The structure shimmered with impossible geometry, its walls displaying the infinite stars of known space. For 3,000 years, this hall had been the center of galactic civilization, where disputes were resolved and the fate of worlds was decided. Ambassador Marcus Chin of Earth stood in the human delegation's chamber, a modest alcove near the outer rim of the assembly. His reflection stared back at him from the transparent wall, showing a man in his 50s with tired eyes and silver threading through his black hair. Behind him, his small team of advisors waited in silence. They all knew what was coming. The chamber itself told a story of humanity's place in the galactic order. While the great empires occupied vast platforms near the center, surrounded by attendants and holographic displays of their power, humanity had been given a space barely large enough for 6 people. It was positioned so far from the assembly's heart that sometimes the translation systems lagged, leaving human representatives struggling to follow debates that shaped the galaxy. Humanity had joined the galactic community 200 years ago, when the first-generation ships finally reached the edges of explored space. They had come with hope and wonder, eager to take their place among the stars. What they found was an ancient hierarchy that had no room for newcomers. Species that had ruled for millions of years saw humanity as barely evolved primates, temporary visitors in a universe that belonged to those who had claimed it first. Marcus had spent 20 years in diplomatic service, watching his predecessors try to earn respect that never came. He had learned patience. He had learned to smile through insults. He had learned to accept compromise after compromise, always believing that eventually humanity would prove its worth. Today, that belief was being tested. The Assembly's central platform hummed with energy as the session began. High Arbiter Vextor, a being whose species had mastered faster than light travel before humans discovered fire, called a gathering to order. His form was difficult to look at directly, shifting between states of matter in ways that hurt to perceive. When he spoke, his voice resonated through every mind in the chamber simultaneously. We gathered to address the petition regarding the Zafrani situation. Vextor announced, "The human delegation has requested emergency intervention." Marcus stepped forward to the edge of his chamber. The moment he moved, a spotlight found him, making him visible to the thousands of representatives present. He felt the weight of their attention, most of it dismissive. Honored Arbiter, distinguished representatives. Marcus began, his voice steady despite the racing of his heart. 3 months ago, the Krell Empire began systematic destruction of the Zafrani homeworld. The Zafrani are a peaceful species with no military capability. They possess advanced knowledge of quantum harmonics, but have never developed weapons. The Krell want that knowledge and have decided that extinction is preferable to negotiation. He paused, calling up holographic images that filled the space above his chamber. The images showed Zafrani cities burning, their crystalline structures shattered. They showed families huddled in shelters that offered no protection. They showed the dead. 2 billion Zafrani have died in 3 months. At the current rate, the species will be extinct within a year. The Galactic Accords clearly state that member species are obligated to prevent genocide. Humanity formally requests immediate intervention to stop the Krell and provide sanctuary to the surviving Zafrani. The silence that followed was heavy. Marcus waited, hope and dread warring in his chest. He knew the Zafrani personally. He had visited their world, had been welcomed into their homes. He had promised them that the galaxy would not abandon them. High Arbiter Vextor's response was calm, almost bored. The Assembly acknowledges humanity's petition. The floor is open for discussion. What followed was worse than rejection. It was mockery. Commander Thrak of the Krell Empire rose from his platform near the Assembly Center. He was massive, his exoskeleton gleaming with the dark purple of his rank. When he spoke, his mandibles clicked with what might have been amusement. "The humans speak of obligation," Thrak said, his voice carrying easily through the chamber. "They reference the Galactic Accords as if they understand them. The Accords exist to maintain order among species that matter. The Krell have been part of this assembly for 15 million years. We have contributed technology, resources, and military strength that have shaped galactic civilization. The Zafrani have existed for barely 50,000 years. They have contributed nothing but interesting theories that they refuse to share. They are irrelevant. They are sentient beings, Marcus interrupted, his voice rising despite his training. They have families, cultures, and dreams. They deserve protection under the same laws that protect every other species here. Laughter rippled through the assembly. Not polite disagreement, but genuine amusement. Marcus felt his face burn with humiliation and rage. Ambassador Kelnara of the Celestian Dominion, a species that resembled living starlight contained in humanoid form, spoke next. Her voice was musical and condescending. Ambassador Chun, your passion is noted. It is almost endearing, like watching a child discover injustice for the first time. But you must understand the realities of governance at this scale. The Krell are correct. The Zafrani have nothing to offer. They have refused every attempt at cultural exchange, hoarding their knowledge while expecting protection of the assembly. The Krell's methods may be harsh, but they are acting within their rights as a dominant power seeking resources. Their rights. Marcus could barely believe what he was hearing. What about the Zafrani's right to exist? High Arbiter Vextor raised one appendage, silencing the growing murmur of conversation. The Assembly has heard the human petition. We will now vote on whether to pursue intervention. The vote took seconds. Out of over 6,000 species present, 12 voted in favor of intervention. Humanity stood alone with 11 other minor species. Their voices drowned in an ocean of rejection. The petition is denied, Vextor announced. The Assembly will not expend resources on the Zafrani situation. This matter is closed. Marcus stood frozen, his mind struggling to process what just happened. Behind him, his team members looked equally devastated. They had known the vote would be difficult, but this complete dismissal felt like being slapped. Ambassador Chun, Vextor continued, his tone now carrying an edge of warning. Humanity has been part of this assembly for 200 years. In that time, you have contributed little of value. You possess no unique technologies, no resources we cannot find elsewhere, no military strength worth noting. Your presence here is a courtesy extended to a young species, showing potential. Do not mistake courtesy for equality. The words hit harder than any weapon. Marcus felt something inside him crack, something that had held together through years of casual disrespect and dismissal. Ambassador Thelmon of the VRYNN Collective, a species that resembled floating jellyfish of pure energy, added his voice. Perhaps this is a learning moment for humanity. You cannot save everyone. You cannot change the fundamental nature of the universe through moral outrage. The strong survive. The weak perish. This has been true since the first stars ignited, and will remain true long after humanity has been forgotten. Marcus looked around the assembly chamber. He saw thousands of beings, representing civilizations that spanned the galaxy. Some looked at him with pity. Most looked at him with nothing at all, as if he were an insect buzzing annoyingly at the edge of their awareness. He thought about the Zafrani children he had met, their crystalline bodies refracting light in patterns that expressed joy. He thought about the scholars who had shown him equations that described the fundamental harmonies of reality. He thought about promises he had made, standing in cities that no longer existed. Then he thought about humanity. 200 years of trying to fit into a galactic order that did not want them. 200 years of accepting insults and exclusion, while believing that patience and persistence would eventually earn them respect. 200 years of being told to know their place. Marcus made a decision. He reached up and removed the translation device from his ear, the small piece of technology that allowed him to understand and be understood by the thousands of species present. For a moment, he spoke in his native Mandarin, words his grandmother had taught him long ago, a prayer for strength in impossible moments. Then he replaced the device and spoke clearly, his voice carrying through the assembly with absolute calm. Humanity withdraws from the Galactic Assembly. The chamber went silent, not the silence of waiting for someone to speak, but the silence of complete incomprehension. The concept was so foreign that most species could not immediately process what they had heard. "What did the humans say?" someone asked. "I believe he said they were withdrawing." Another voice replied, confused. "But that is impossible. No species has ever withdrawn from the assembly. Marcus turned to his team. Collect your materials. We are leaving. His chief advisor, Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, stared at him with wide eyes. Marcus, are you certain? More certain than I have ever been about anything. High Arbiter Vextor's form solidified slightly, a sign of genuine surprise. Ambassador Chen, you cannot simply leave. The session is not concluded. Marcus looked up at the High Arbiter. You are correct. The session is not concluded, but our participation in it is. Humanity has spent 2 centuries trying to be part of this assembly. We have followed your rules, accepted your decisions, and believed that eventually we will be treated as equals. Today, you have made it clear that will never happen. You have shown us that you value power over justice, age over worth, and strength over compassion. He paused, looking around the chamber one last time. Thousands of eyes, sensors, and perception organs focused on him. You asked us to know our place. We have learned it. Our place is not here, accepting your judgment and living by your rules. Our place is elsewhere, building something better. Commander Thrax's mandibles clicked with what might have been anger. You dare insult this assembly? You are nothing. Humanity has no power, no influence, and no importance. You need us far more than we need you. Marcus smiled, and there was no warmth in it. You are right about one thing, Commander. We do need something. We need to be better than this. Better than a civilization that watches genocide and calls it governance. Better than a society that measures worth by age and power by cruelty. He turned toward the exit, his team following. With each step, his decision solidified into certainty. Behind them, the assembly erupted in confused discussion. This is meaningless, Ambassador Kelnara called out. Where will you go? What will you do? You cannot survive alone. Marcus stopped at the threshold, looking back one final time. You are about to find out. He walked out of the Galactic Assembly Hall. The door closed behind the human delegation with a soft sound that somehow seemed to echo through the infinite space. For a long moment, no one in the assembly moved or spoke. Then the High Arbiter attempted to return to business, moving on to the next item on the agenda. But something had changed. Something fundamental had shifted in the order of things. In distant human space, the news of the withdrawal spread through every colony, station, and ship. The reaction was not panic. It was something else entirely. It was determination. Within hours, every human installation in the galaxy began to move. Ships departed for Earth and the core colonies. Scientists, engineers, diplomats, traders, and teachers all received the same message. Come home. We have work to do. The borders of human space closed completely. Ships that tried to enter found their signals unanswered and their passage blocked. No one came out. No one went in. The galaxy continued on, barely noticing the absence of a species it had never valued. But in the darkness of human space, something was being built, something that would change everything. The assembly had dismissed humanity as irrelevant. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The reckoning. 3 months had passed since humanity withdrew from the Galactic Assembly. For the first few weeks, the galaxy had barely noticed. Humans were such a minor presence that their absence seemed insignificant. The ancient powers continued their debates, their trade negotiations, and their political maneuvering as they had for millions of years. Then the problems began. It started small. A communications relay in Sector 9 went offline. Engineers from the VRYNN collective arrived to repair it and discovered something troubling. The entire system had been maintained by human technicians. The replacement parts had been manufactured in human facilities. The software that ran the delicate quantum processors had been written by human programmers. No one else knew exactly how it worked. The VRYNN engineers tried their best, but the relay remained offline. Ships traveling through that sector had to take longer routes, adding weeks to their journeys. It was annoying, but not catastrophic. Then 3 more relays failed in different sectors. Then 7. Then 23. Trade Minister Calvesh of the Merchants Guild stood in his office overlooking the capital city of Terminus Prime, staring at reports that made no sense. His species, the Valari, had been masters of commerce for 6 million years. They understood markets, supply chains, and economic systems better than any other civilization. But what was happening now defied every model and prediction. How is this possible? He asked his chief analyst, a young Valari named Reshtin. Humans comprise less than 2% of galactic economic activity. Their absence should be barely noticeable. Reshtin's tentacles writhed with anxiety, a clear sign of distress. Minister, that 2% was not evenly distributed. Humans specialize in what other species considered beneath them. They took jobs no one else wanted. They maintained systems everyone else ignored. They filled gaps we did not even know existed. The analyst brought up a holographic display showing cascading failures across multiple sectors. Human medical teams were working on cures for 17 different diseases. All research has stopped. Human security firms were guarding trade routes through lawless regions. Pirates have increased attacks by 300%. Human entertainment generated cultural content that kept trillions of beings occupied. The loss of that content has created social unrest on 47 worlds. Calvesh felt something cold settling in his chest. What about critical infrastructure? That is where the real problem lies, Reshtin said quietly. Humans maintain 70% of the automated systems in neutral space. They manage data centers that process information for thousands of species. They operated recycling stations that prevented resource collapse. They crewed rescue ships that saved lives in deep space. They were everywhere, Minister. We just never paid attention. The trade minister pulled up economic projections. The numbers were devastating. Without human services, costs were rising across every sector. Species that had relied on human expertise were scrambling to find replacements and failing. The galactic economy was not collapsing, but it was bleeding from thousands of small wounds. Send a delegation to human space, Calvesh ordered. Offer them favorable trade terms to return. We have tried, Minister, 17 times. No response. Our ships are turned away at their borders without explanation. Far from Terminus Prime, the Krell Empire continued its campaign against the Zafrani. Commander Thrak stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the last Zafrani city burn through the view screen. The crystalline structures melted under sustained weapons fire, their harmonious architecture collapsing into molten slag. Resistance has ceased, his tactical officer reported. The Zafrani government has surrendered. They're prepared to transfer all quantum harmonic research to us. Thrak felt satisfaction wash through him. This was how the universe worked. The strong took what they wanted. The weak surrendered or died. Humanity's pathetic moral outrage had changed nothing. Prepare boarding teams, he ordered. Take everything. Their research, their cultural archives, their historical records. The Zafrani will give us everything, or we will burn the rest of their world. The tactical officer hesitated. Commander, our drives are showing unusual fluctuations. Explain. Unknown. The patterns do not match any malfunction in our databases. Engineering is investigating. Thrak dismissed it with a wave. Minor technical issues were irrelevant. The Krell had conquered 1,000 worlds with ships built to last millennia. Nothing could stop them. Then every system on the flagship went dark. Not gradually, not with warnings or alerts. One moment the ship was fully operational, and the next moment it was a dead hulk drifting in space. Lights died. Gravity failed. Life support ceased. Weapons powered down. Even the emergency backups refused to activate. Thrak floated in sudden weightlessness, his mind struggling to process what had happened. Around him, his crew made sounds of fear and confusion. Krell were warriors. They did not fear death in battle. But this was not battle. This was something else entirely. The darkness lasted exactly 60 seconds. Then everything came back online. Systems hummed to life. Gravity returned, sending everyone crashing to the deck. Screens lit up with diagnostic data, showing that every system was functioning normally, except for the weapons. Every weapon on the flagship had been permanently disabled. The energy systems that powered them had been melted into useless slag. The molecular structure had been altered in ways that made repair impossible. Report. Thrak roared, pulling himself upright. Sir, The entire fleet has been affected. Every ship. All weapons are offline. We are defenseless. How? Who attacked us? There is no sign of any attack, Commander. No weapons fire, no enemy vessels, no energy signatures. It just happened. Thrak accessed the external sensors. His fleet of 300 warships drifted around him, all of them equally crippled. And there, carved into the hull of his flagship with impossible precision, was a message in perfect Krell script. The Zafrani send their regards. Leave this world. Do not return. The commander felt something he had not experienced in his 4,000 years of life. He felt fear. Back at the Galactic Assembly, an emergency session had been called. High Arbiter Vextor looked down at the gathered representatives with an expression that approached concern. The situation has escalated, he announced. Multiple species are reporting severe disruptions to essential services. The Krell Empire has suffered a military incident of unknown origin. We must address the human question. Ambassador Kelnara of the Celestian Dominion spoke first. We should demand their return. Humanity has no right to disrupt galactic order. On what grounds? Trade Minister Calvesh asked. They withdrew peacefully. They have violated no laws. They have attacked no one. They have simply stopped helping us. They are obligated. They are obligated to nothing, Calvesh interrupted. We made that clear when we denied their petition. We told them they were irrelevant. We told them they had no value. Now they are demonstrating that we were wrong. The assembly erupted in argument. Some species demanded military action against humanity. Others called for negotiations. A few, the wisest among them, simply sat in silence and calculated. Then the sensors detected something impossible. A ship had appeared in assembly space. Not through hyperspace, not through any known method of travel. It had simply materialized, as if the universe had decided it belonged there. The ship was human. It was small, barely 300 meters long, with a sleek design that suggested speed and efficiency. Its hull was painted midnight black, and across its side were words in multiple languages. The Silent Envoy. Every weapon system in assembly space locked onto the ship automatically. Thousands of defensive platforms, hundreds of military vessels, all aimed at the single human craft. Nothing happened. The weapons did not fire. They could not fire. The targeting systems had gone offline. A voice came through every communication channel simultaneously. It was calm, professional, and absolutely certain. This is Captain Sarah Okonkwo of the United Earth Diplomatic Corps. We are here to speak. High Arbiter Vextor materializes form fully, a sign of extreme focus. You enter assembly space without permission. You arrive through unknown means. You disable our defenses. This is an act of war. No, Sarariplaiv. This is a demonstration. For 3 months, you have wondered what humanity has been doing in isolation. We thought it was time to show you. On every screen throughout the assembly, images appeared. They showed human worlds transformed. They showed technologies that should not exist. They showed ships that moved through space in ways that violated known physics. They showed humans working alongside the rescued Zafrani, their combined knowledge creating wonders. When you told us we had no value, you were correct, Sarah continued. We had no ancient technologies. We had no powerful weapons. We had no significance by your standards. So we decided to create our own standards. The images shifted, showing human researchers working at impossible speeds, their minds enhanced by technology that made them think faster, deeper, and more creatively than any organic brain should be capable of. You told us that the strong survive and the weak perish. You told us this was the fundamental nature of the universe. You were wrong. The universe has no nature. It has no rules except the ones we discover and the ones we create. Strength is not inherited. It is built. Commander Thrak's voice cut through the assembly. He had been summoned to explain the incident with his fleet. You attacked us. You destroyed our weapons. You disabled our ships. We did, Sarah agreed. You were committing genocide. We stopped you. And we did it without killing a single Krell. Every member of your fleet survived. We could have destroyed you all. We chose not to. Remember that. She paused, letting that sink in. In 3 months, humanity has advanced further than most species advance in millennia. We did it by working together. We did it by refusing to accept your limitations. We did it because you gave us no choice. High Arbiter Vexthor's form flickered with what might have been uncertainty. What do you want? We want what we asked for 3 months ago. Justice for the Zafrani. Protection for species that cannot protect themselves. An end to genocide being treated as acceptable policy. We want the Galactic Assembly to actually assemble for something other than the benefit of the ancient powers. And if we refuse? Sarah's response was immediate. Then we will enforce it ourselves. Every species in this assembly depends on systems that humans once maintained. We know exactly how everything works because we built it, fixed it, and improved it while you ignored us. We can make your civilizations run smoothly, or we can make them stop. She let that threat hang in the air for a moment, but we would prefer cooperation. We are not interested in conquest. We are not interested in revenge. We are interested in creating a galaxy where the strong protect the weak instead of preying on them, where justice matters more than age, where every sentient being has value. Ambassador Kelnara's musical voice carried outrage. You speak of justice while holding us hostage with threats. We learn from the best, Sarah replied coldly. The Krell held the Zafrani hostage with threats of extinction. You held us hostage with threats of exclusion and irrelevance. We are simply using the language you taught us. Marcus Chin appeared beside Sarah on the screen. He looked different from 3 months ago. Older somehow and harder. The Galactic Assembly has a choice. You can accept our terms and work with us to build something better. Or you can refuse and discover what happens when humanity stops being patient. Your terms, Vexthor asked. First, the Krell will leave Zafrani space immediately and permanently. They will pay reparations for the damage they have caused. Second, the Assembly will establish an intervention protocol for genocide and species extinction events. Third, humanity will receive a seat on the ruling council with full authority. Fourth, the technologies we have developed will remain ours exclusively. We will share their benefits, but not their secrets. This is extortion, Commander Thrax said. This is negotiation, Marcus corrected. 3 months ago, we came asking for help. Today, we come offering a partnership. The difference is that today, you understand what you lose by refusing. The assembly chamber fell silent. Every representative understood what was being offered and what was being threatened. Humanity had become powerful in ways they could not fully comprehend. The small species they had dismissed now held their comfortable civilizations in its hands. High Arbiter Vexthor looked at Marcus Chun through the communication link. Two beings separated by vast philosophical differences, meeting at a moment that would define the future. We will vote on your terms, Vexthor said finally. You will accept our terms, Marcus replied. The vote is a formality. You know what happens if you refuse. You would really destroy everything? Collapse galactic civilization. Marcus smiled, and it was the saddest smile Sarah had ever seen. We would not have it destroy anything. We would simply stop helping. We would let you maintain your own systems, guard your own trade routes, and cure your own diseases. We would watch you struggle with problems you did not even know you had. And when species like the Zafrani cry out for help, we would be there for them. Just not for you. The vote took an hour. Species argued, threatened, and pleaded. But in the end, the result was inevitable. 6,000 species, each calculating their own survival, each understanding their own vulnerability. The terms were accepted unanimously. The silent envoy remained in assembly space for 3 more days while the details were finalized. The Krell fleet withdrew from Zafrani space under human supervision. Reparations were agreed upon. The intervention protocols were written into assembly law. And Marcus Chun took his place on the ruling council, the first human ever to sit among the ancient powers. On the final day, before the silent envoy departed, Sarah transmitted one last message to the assembly. 3 months ago, you told us to know our place. We have learned it. Our place is standing between the powerful and the helpless. Our place is building impossible things because we refuse to accept impossible. Our place is proving that youth and determination can surpass age and tradition. She paused. You dismissed us because we were young. You forgot that young species are hungry. Young species adapt. Young species refuse to accept the way things have always been. You taught us that the universe belongs to the strong. We accepted that lesson. And then we became strong in ways you never imagined. The silent envoy vanished, leaving no trace of how it had come or where it had gone. The assembly dispersed, each species returning home to adjust to a new reality. The galaxy had changed, not through war or conquest, but through the quiet determination of a species that had been told it did not matter. Humanity had walked away from the negotiation table, and the universe had trembled. And in the Zafrani home world, the crystalline cities began to ring with songs of hope once more.